Greetings viewers and welcome back to what I'm hoping will be another educational video for you. Today we're going to be talking about Horde Base design and some things that I've learned just through experience and playing through on my own and watching some other people's videos with just some helpful tips and tricks. If you're here to see an ultimate end all build this Horde Base and win from day 1 to day 7,000, that's not what this is. Purpose of this video is just to give you some sort of information on kind of how the zombies act and some ways you can use that to incorporate in your base design and things that you can build maybe starting on day 1 and then just improve upon them as the hordes get harder and you get longer into your playthrough. So as you can see right here in front of me, I have a couple of different entrances to your to a potential horde base. These are probably the more simple and more commonly used designs and things that I've used, and the one on the far left is one I'm going to try to incorporate and use in the future. Keep in mind that most all of the structures I have in this video are going to be made out of steel. However, these tips and techniques can be used for any of the materials in the game. Granted, I would not build an entire horde base out of frame shapes unless you're just trying to see if the design works, which is one thing I recommend. If you have an idea in your head and you're not playing in creative mode and you want to see if something's going to work without wasting all your resources and then having to spend your time and energy breaking it back down because it didn't work, it's going to take you a while to chop through a cobblestone block instead of just looking at this thing, hitting E and picking it up and starting from scratch. So just keep that in mind that, again, any one of these materials are valid through this stuff and you can just upgrade it as need be. So you may have the basic design down in wood, but then as you start looting cobblestone and making it yourself, you can start upgrading and then going from there. Now, speaking of upgrading, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is also with your design, how you're placing your blocks, and if you're planning on keeping that design and, again, upgrading through all of the materials, what you don't want to do is end up with something like this. Based on your design and what you end up coming up with, the zombies seem to have X-ray vision, and if you have a ladder on the other side of a wall, rather than taking some crazy funhouse maze of traps and platforms and climbing and all kinds of stuff you have them doing, if there's a ladder somewhere they can access it, they'll just smash right through a wall and get to it. Same thing if they sense that the entire core of your base is a really weak material and all they have to do is smash through this outside block, they'll bust through this, make themselves a set of stairs, and then all of your traps and crazy funhouse games that you have planned out for the zombies, they're just going to completely ignore them, bypass them, and you're not going to have a good time when they start punching you in the back and you're wondering where they're coming from. So let's go back over here and look at these potential entrances. These, again, are things that I have used personally, continue to use, and plan to use in the future. So what most people do is simply just create a 1x2 hole here, place a hatch down, maybe even another backup hatch here facing this. Then that way, if this hatch fails, you have another one in this exact orientation popped up here and the zombies can't get in. So one of the things that I have learned that is kind of I guess you would say a flaw in this design is if the zombies are here and they get piled up too much, they'll get down on all fours and they can climb through. This is just a 1x1 hole which zombies can squeeze through, and you're going to have them start crawling through here and punching you. And then while you're backing up and dealing with them, you're going to have more start to squeeze through behind. And then before you know it, you can get overwhelmed inside of your base. So one thing that I do to help combat that and keep them outside where I want them to fight them is putting a pole right here. And what this does is this blocks that entranceway for them to get in. So let me show you how I do that. So what I'll do, and if you watched my video on blocks and shape guides, you'll see this in there. So if I hold R and go to this menu, I'll highlight over shape with my mouse. I don't have to click or do anything, just release R and come here. Right here, this shape called pole. If you notice, it shows you here, there's 3 different poles. This one's kind of centered on the side, this one's centered in the middle, and this one is on the corner. The one that's on the corner is the one that you want, so I'm going to just click on that. Then I'm going to hit tab to get out of it. You can see it here, so this is my active selected shape. I'm going to get in here. Well, I don't want it on the side there, so I've got to fix the rotation, so I'm going to hold R again. I'm going to go down here to advanced. I'm going to highlight over and let go of R. And then I'm just going to left click. And it's going to just continue moving. And I'm just going to continue left clicking. I would do this slowly until you find the orientation because you may click too fast. All right, and so that's where I want it. So now I'm going to right click. That's going to place the block. So now again, I've got that kind of squished up. The zombies still see this as an access point to get to me. They do like hatches. And if they have access to you here, this is more preferred to a solid wall. So they're still going to come to this. Putting that there is not going to affect them wanting to attack you. The other design that like I said, I want to start trying to incorporate or using in the future. So one of the drawbacks to using this is you'll get zombies that'll get down on all fours and they'll start punching this. And in order to hit them, you have to get really close. Well, while the other zombies are piled around here, they're punching you in the face while you're trying to get them. Or if you have a crawler or you have a dog, unless their head's popping through and you can hit it that way, you're going to have to get a little bit closer to hit them. Well, if you have railings or bars planted here, this is that same pole shape that I showed you over here. I just have it rotated down to this bottom position, which again will help keep them from getting through here. And my hatch this time is mounted at the top. I can open that and still get in and out of my horde base just fine. I'm ready for the zombies to come. I just close that down. Well, now what I can do is I can pull out my firearm of choice, and any dogs, crawlers, zombies that are down on all fours now don't have something solid to hide behind. I can shoot through this and hit them, as well as the guys and girls that are gathered up at the door. And hit them with melee and shoot these guys or the ones up top. So those are just some standard base entrances and fighting positions, again, that I use and have used and will continue to use for my future horde endeavors. Now, some tips and things, again, that I have learned along the way to make my life a little bit easier, and hopefully it will help you, especially if you're a newer player. If you're a veteran player, these tips are probably a little bit behind in your skill level, so this may not be news to you, but maybe it will. So the very first tip that I can give you when you're building a horde base, without giving you any sort of instruction, even if I didn't tell you anything about the entranceway, the first thing that you want to do is you want elevation. You want to get off of the ground. And there's a reason for that. I kind of used this analogy in one of my previous videos covering traps, but I want you to think about it in terms of your favorite theme park. And think about your favorite ride that you may want to go on in that theme park, or favorite attraction if you're not big on the rides. Typically, the way they are set up is there's one main entrance to the ride, and then it kind of funnels all the people through until you get to your destination. Now, imagine, if you will, that this horde base right here is your ride. And we're going to go up and we're looking at a map of the park, right? And this is the entrance. This is where they want everybody to come through, regardless of where you are in the park. They want you to go all the way around. They want you to go by concessions. They want you to go by the gift shop. And they want to then lead you right to the entrance. And then everybody funnels through here to get to the ride. Well, now take all that stuff away. Your ride is in the middle of the park, and there is no determined path, no nothing. It's just wide open, and anybody can come from any angle. So you've just got people from all over the park just walking through, underneath, around, from this way, coming in, and everybody's trying to all get to the same ride at the same time. And just imagine how chaotic that would be. So that particular park attraction is your horde base, and the zombies are the guests that are coming to ride that ride. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to have them be able to get to you from any angle, because if there's enough zombies piled up here and they're kind of blocking the way, and there's guys and girls that are spawning from over here and you're inside of there, they'll just run up here and be like, you know what? I really don't want to walk around. I'm just going to bash through this block to get to them because I can. Again, if it's, you know, day 7 horde or something, or you're doing horde every day and it's the first couple of horde nights, probably not going to be a big deal. You could use this horde base for early game, but then you've kind of wasted your time and resources building it. Unless that's your intention, you just want to kind of build a progressive, different and more difficult horde bases. But I feel like that's a waste of resources, especially a survival game. I like to kind of keep the stuff that I've got and progress and build from there. So ideally, this would not be a good position. If something happened and you got caught up doing things and day 7 rolls around and you don't have a horde base and this is the best you can do, you'll probably be fine. Day 14, again, probably fine. And day 21, it may start getting a little bit more difficult, because you're going to, especially if this is not going to be all steel, and maybe still be wood, a little bit of cobblestone here and there. It's going to be a little bit difficult for you. They're going to start trying to smash through, and you're going to end up having to work on repairs here, and then run over here and repair this, and fight a little bit, and then run over here and repair. Then it's just going to be chaotic. So what you want to do is, again, like I said with the theme park, you want to control the access. You want to get up off the ground, so that way they can't choose where they come at you from. You pick where they come from. So let's swap over here. This is the exact same thing. This is just a 5x5 base that I have solid all the way to the ground. and I just have a little bit of a ramp leading up, so there's no obstructions. The zombies can come up, they can run right up and get to your fighting position, and you can duke it out with them right here. Got our pole there to keep them from squeezing through, so they have to stand here. They start to pile up, they'll push each other off, they have to come back and start the loop all over again. Well, again, this is great. This is something that you can use earlier game. The only issue you'll run into with this exact specific setup is the zombies can get to you really fast. Depending on what you have your zombie movement speed at, you typically Horde Night, they're going to be a little bit faster by default, unless you've changed it. But let's just say they're sprinting or nightmare speed zombies. They're going to book it up this thing, and they're going to be at your fighting position before you know it. This thing's going to start taking damage. That's going to take damage. All these blocks are going to get smashed up really quickly. And then depending on how high they're piling up, they may actually get up on top of your base, and you may not even know it, and they're going to start punching down to get to you. That's not something you want. So again, step one, get off the ground. But then step two is you want to control the flow of traffic. You want to, number one, slow them down. You want to make them work to get to you, and then be able to kind of have a little bit more time to fight individually up here. Step back, get some stamina, heal, or maybe take an antibiotic if you got infected, or use a bandage if you got an abrasion because you got smacked a little too much. Come back and fight again without them destroying this before you have a chance to do any of those things. The other thing to think about is I personally would not recommend a completely solid bottom to your base. And also of note with that, zombies, for whatever reason, don't like sharp corners. So something even like this, they may come around this corner and they'll just sit here and run and be like, rah, and get mad and start punching these blocks. And you're like, what are you doing? The ramp is right here. Why are you doing that? And it's kind of hard to ask a zombie that. So we just, say stupid zombie and kind of adapt from there. But what you don't want to do is ideally not leave the base completely solid, because what'll happen is, again, the zombies will get jammed up here, and you'll be fighting and busy thinking about that. Well, while they're doing that, you've got a couple lazy zombies that are like, you know what? I really don't want to walk around. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make my own little stairway and get up to them this way and kind of sneak attack from behind. So if the zombies bust these blocks out and they bust these blocks out, well, guess what? You're right there fighting. Aha, they're now in here behind you, and they've made their own stairs. And now you have two avenues of the zombies that are trying to get to you, and you're really going to be stuck. And especially if you don't have any sort of escape route, this is probably just going to be a big tomb for you. So I would not recommend using a solid base simply for that reason, especially with some of the softer materials like wood and cobblestone. Depending on how high you have the AI block damage set to, they'll just smash through that faster than they'll run up here and fight you at that position. What can we do to combat that solid base thing? You can use full-size blocks and just make pillars. But again, that's more surface areas for the zombies to just run into and be like, I'm stuck. I'm just going to punch this thing because I'm angry. So if you watched my video on blocks and shapes, you'll see some of the things that I showed you where you can, again, shrink this big cube down to something this small, which has the exact same amount of hit points. That has 10,000. That has 10,000. They're both, in the eyes of the game, a steel block. They just visually represent something smaller than that. These right here are actually 4 individual small pillars that are in the corner. So this entire block technically is taken up by that corner and vice versa with those 4. So this is actually 4 blocks that they would have to even smash through to bring the structure down if they really got that mad at you and had no access because whatever you had before was broken. So speaking of access, there's a ladder right here. It is 2 blocks high. I can walk underneath this, but I can jump and grab that ladder. So like I mentioned, ideally you would have some sort of alternate escape route or entrance to your base, especially depending on how complicated the entrance is where you have the zombies coming up to get to your fighting position. If you don't want to have to walk through whatever precarious things you have set up, I recommend giving yourself an alternate entrance / escape route, because if you may have what you feel is the greatest horde base in the world and find out there's some major flaw with it and you've got to abandon ship, well, you don't want to be trapped in here with all solid walls and roof and you can't get out. So even something as simple as putting a ladder up to your roof area where you can jump off and get in your 4x4 and drive off into the sunrise, or a door here you can bail out of and maybe run to an alternate fighting position, or just run around and fight them on foot. Get them away from your base so you can make whatever maybe repairs you need to get back in your fighting position and fight again. So again, underneath here, I've got these pillars. This base is pretty solid. Maybe not as solid as a complete structure, but it doesn't give them really much of an idea of a path to smash their own way to get to you. So in speaking about controlling the flow of traffic, I've put this here. I like to use blocks instead of ramps or stairs. And the reason for that is because it's upgradable. So let's just say this is my entryway for the zombies to get up to my fighting position, and I say, you know what, there's really a lot of zombies and they're piling up really quick. What I want to do is I want to extend this out and give them more time and distance before they get to me. Well, in order to fix that, all I have to do is just add more blocks, and I can indefinitely extend this out. If I'm using ramps or stairs, it's going to be kind of janky if I try and place a block on top of this and then go off from there. So I would have to spend the time to smash that out to then replace it, and I could have saved myself the headache to begin with. The other benefit to that is using blocks like this, the zombies have to actually get to it, stop, say, oh, you know what? I got to jump. Oh, look, another obstruction. I've got to jump, and that's going to slow them down on its own, let alone having some sort of crazy path to get to my base. Now, this alone, just because of the turns, is not going to slow them down. What will happen is sometimes they start going a little too fast and they drift out of control, and uh-oh, they fell off. They'll get mad. They'll punch some things and then say, you know what? I got to get back up here and fight this guy or girl. They'll get up. They've got to get to this block. Oh, they've got to jump. They start piling up a little bit. Somebody pushes somebody else off. And what you're doing is, again, you're controlling the flow of traffic and you're delaying them getting to you. So you can fight them a little bit more piecemeal. You have time to regenerate stamina. You have time to drink a beer or take some vitamins or use a recog or learn an elixir, whatever it is that you're doing when you're in there, kind of giving yourself the advantage. You're reloading your traps. You want to kind of mess with them a little bit. You want to make it as difficult as possible. Again, I shrunk this down to that same, this is the same shape that I used to block the entrance there to keep them from crawling through. That way it's a thinner walkway so they can't pile up as much. And then you get 2 or 3 of them here, they're going to start shoving each other off, or you hit them hard enough with a power attack, they fall off and they've got to start the whole journey all over again, because the only way that they can get to you, they can't smash this and climb up. They can't get to your ladder. They have to come back all the way over here and start the little funhouse maze all over again. So again, I'm not telling you this specific design is ideal. You can use your imagination. And that's what the best thing about this game is yeah, there's some basic tips and tricks to creating your base and your fighting position. And maybe it's kind of generic and everybody does the same thing and they hide behind a hatch and block it with a pole and fight. And it's just a matter of what's in store for the zombies on the way there. So if you watched my videos on each of the different traps for your horde bases, you would have seen this set up already. One of the things that ideally, especially for the later game hordes, when you start getting radiated zombies and demolishers and cops galore, things are going to get broken. They're going to punch these things for absolutely no reason. And if you only have one for the zombies to get to you, and that one simple block, this block right here, gets destroyed, they cannot jump 2 blocks. There's no path to get to you. They're just going to get angry and start smashing everything that they possibly can. So ideally, you want to give them multiple routes to get to you. So this is just an identical staircase 3 times to get to the same position to get across to fight to. So ideally, that's something else you want to keep in mind as you grow. So again, maybe day 1 through 35, you can use the same one staircase. But then I would probably, once you start again getting lots of cops showing up or demolishers, add some alternate stairs or routes, or just put a ladder. I mean, you can't put it on that angle piece, but if you just have a simple ladder there. Now, dogs and wolves can't climb that, but the zombies sure can. And they have an alternate route to get up just in case things break. You always want to have a backup plan. So let's say you don't want to make the standard design. You don't want to use the little hatch and the pipe and fight in the position and do that. Another thing that a lot of people do is they make what's called a tower base or a pit base or pit tower, whatever you want to call it, where essentially you dig down, probably would want to go deeper than this, because the only route the zombies have to get to you is to jump in this pit. Once they jump in this pit, the only route to get to you would be up this ladder. Well, they climb this ladder because they see this gap right here to get to you, but uh-oh, their heads are blocked. And they're jamming up traffic behind them. The zombies are getting pushed. they're trying to crawl and get and punch and hit, and they can't get to you. Well, meanwhile, you can be up here shooting, hitting, punching, knocking them off. You could have a junkie turret sitting there shooting them in the head while they're coming up, or an auto turret or whatever. You could stand up here and shoot down on them. And then also while the zombies are piling up in there, let's say you have, again, dogs running around, because dogs can't use ladders. You've got to have a way to get rid of them. Having this pit area keeps the zombies contained. And if you watched my video on throwables, I kind of covered that as well. Probably give yourself some sort of little access to launch some pipe bombs down in there while the zombies are concentrated. Maybe hit them with some Molotovs, let them set each other on fire, and they'll kind of do the work for you because they've concentrated themselves. Having something like that walkway, throwing a pipe bomb, is probably not going to do a lot of good, because it's going to come out, probably fall down to the ground. You might get 1 or 2 zombies, and it's kind of a waste of resources. You could have either sold that for coin or had a different base design where it was more effective. So something like this would be ideal for throwables like that, grenades, contact grenades. Maybe not so much here because you're a little close and you start catching yourself on fire, exploding yourself, but you can just repair these 2. What I have here are railings that, again, you can shoot through and the zombies can't get through unless they start smashing it enough. If you have enough of them building up, hopefully you've got quite the firepower to fight them off and keep them from actually smashing their way through. Otherwise, you're going to need some sort of escape route to get out of there and get to another fighting position. Go away, let them come down, leave that alone so you can kind of come back, make the necessary repairs, and then continue fighting, or reload your junkie turret or whatever you've got going on. So if I were going to say, hey, build this horde base and you'll succeed, if that was the intent of this video and something that you can do starting on day 1, especially if you're a new player and you really don't know what to do or how to do it, I would say this is probably the easiest possible base design that you could use, especially on a day 7 horde. It's going to use fairly minimal resources, but it's going to cover all the aspects of everything you need. So I just have a simple block staircase going up. Again, this is upgradable throughout your playthrough. Once you get the hang of it, once the hordes start getting harder, you can just start adding blocks to this to extend it further out and come down over here. You can add a second stairway this way and a third one going the other direction like I showed you. The zombies have to slow down to walk their way up here. They get to this little beam, and then they come to your hatch with the pole across the top, and you're fighting from here. One of the things to keep in mind with this setup is you definitely want to have at least 2 blocks above that, because the zombies can still, even on this beam, pile up on top of each other's heads and get to you. So if they're up this high, they're not going to be able to stack up any higher than that. This isn't DayZ, thankfully. They're not scrambling and climbing a 60-foot wall to get to you. So you definitely want to make sure it's high enough that you don't stop on that block, because again, like I mentioned, they will get on top of it and punch down to you. Yes, the backside of this is open. I would gladly fight a day 7 horde from this position, simply because chances of you getting any what I call leapers, or the game knows as spiders, is unlikely in the first probably at least 2 or 3 hordes, depending on what difficulty you have it on and how much XP you're getting. That will also affect the game state. I'm going based off of just kind of default settings for the game. If you're cranking those up already and you don't really know how to play, you know what? Good on you for adding the extra challenge. This base may not work for you, unfortunately. But you can also expand on the design with some of the other stuff I mentioned and told you about. So I've got a ladder here. Again, it's 2 blocks high. If this ladder was 1 block high, the zombies can access that and get up. So it is 2 blocks high. I can jump up and get up here, get to my fighting position. As time goes on, I can start adding bars or railings above my head, and those are typically for bird defense. There are undead vultures in the game that will try and get you, and if you have a solid roof here, you have no way to get them, because you're going to be in here fighting, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to smash their way directly over your head. So having bars and railings, I'll show you that over here, like this, can become invaluable, especially if you have a gun to shoot them with. You can also put spike traps on top of your roof. They'll fly into them and eventually it'll kill them. You won't get any XP for it, but you also won't be getting dead from them. So again, this can be expanded upon. You can build out around this. Just put a hatch over your little ladder and expand your platform as wide as you need to. Build your walls up, build a railing or bar ceiling for the birds, expand this platform out, and kind of the world is your oyster at that point, and you can do whatever you want from it, and it's very expandable. Also, the height on these things, you don't have, You can make this as high as you want. You could go to the world height limit with your base, and the zombies are going to take whatever path you've set up that, you know, hopefully you have the resources to actually do that, but it is possible. They will come and get you. I've seen people build horde bases on top of the tallest default building structures in the game, and the zombies still manage to find their way up there. So no matter where you are in the game, they will find you and they will attack you. It's just a matter of, again, controlling that flow of traffic, giving yourself the most advantages possible. So hopefully you guys found some of the tips and tricks and ideas in this video helpful, especially if you're a new player. Maybe if you're a veteran player, hopefully you discovered something new that may help you moving forward. If I missed anything, let me know down below, or if there's anything else you have questions about or want to know, I'll be glad to answer them in either the comments, or I'll even make a new video if it's something that requires maybe a little bit more explanation than just some typed words on a screen. So with that, I am going to end this video here. Hopefully you found it entertaining and useful and educational. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Any feedback or constructive criticism that I can use to make my videos better for you moving forward, please feel free to let me know. I promise you're not going to hurt my feelings. And with that, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.